If you've been a Christian longer than a minute, you are probably painfully aware of the fact that faith in much of the Western world is in a downward trend. Over the past decade, study after study has revealed a sharp decline in religious affiliation, church attendance, and belief in God, while the number of people identifying as having no religion has grown rapidly. Why is this the case? Well, it's complicated. Not a mystery, but it's complicated. Some of the problem is definitely with Christians ourselves. If you're interested in an introspective look at what we're doing to drive people away, check out part 2 of this series here. Otherwise, what I'd like to look at in this video are the outside forces causing people to become atheists. Here are the 5 biggest threats to faith and what we can do to respond to each. Number 1, scientific materialism. Have you ever seen God? Felt a soul? Discovered any evidence for spiritual beings or forces? Chances are the answer is no, which has led many in the modern world to conclude that there is nothing to life but the physical world. For materialists, as they're called, we are nothing more than a collection of cells, a series of firing neurons giving the illusion of consciousness, but ultimately just bags of flesh. The material world is all there is. As science has progressed over the years, this has become more and more popular. Emotions can be reduced to chemical imbalances, miracles to natural phenomena. While there are still some things that science can't explain, proponents of this idea say that it's just a matter of time. Since all there is matter, we'll eventually be able to figure it all out. But what about one's conscience? What about a sense of right and wrong? If you take this idea to its logical conclusion, there is no free will because everything is already determined by our brain chemistry, which means that no choice is any better than any other because choice itself is an illusion. Hitler wasn't bad, it was just his brain chemistry. You're not responsible for anything you do, you're just a collection of complex cells. This is absurd. For people of faith, we must stress the individuality of the human person. Our thoughts, hopes, dreams, attractions, choices, everything that points to our uniqueness and our freedom to make decisions. When we do this, we show that we are more than just material, that there is something about us that can't be measured or predicted. We have a conscience. We have a soul. We have something that animates us beyond the physical world, drawing our attention to a reality beyond the physical world. Even though we can't prove it, we know that there is something spiritual about our existence. Number 2, rationalism. If materialism is a world defined by science alone, rationalism is a world defined by math and logic alone. Because the senses, emotions, and conventions can all be flawed, they cannot be trusted. There is no truth that can surpass pure human reason. As with materialism, there is some truth to this. Who's going to argue against science? Who's going to argue against rationality? We don't want to be erratic beings guided solely by emotions or intuitions. What do the numbers say? What is logical? These are not bad questions to ask. And yet, we all know that what draws us to a beautiful sunset is not that it is rational. We fall in love and get married not because we've made calculations and can logically prove through some theorem that love is real. No. Life's greatest pleasures, what brings us the most meaning, come not from pure logic, but from beauty and love, from art, history, music, poetry, literature, and yes, faith. And so the way that we combat the rationalist is not with reasoned arguments or debate. It's not to play their game with their rules. We must break them out of their isolated worldview to encounter sacred spaces, places that provoke a sense of awe and wonder, that point to something beyond anything that can be explained. As Blaise Pascal once said, "The heart has its reasons, which reason knows nothing of. We know the truth not only by reason, but by the heart." While it's true that our emotions and intuition can't always be trusted, there is no reason to throw it away completely. Remember the feeling of seeing your first child. Let yourself be overwhelmed with falling in love. Look at the stars with immense wonder and don't try to analyze why. There's something that speaks to us beyond pure rationality, and it is the truth. Number 3, secularism. No doubt you've heard the word secular used by religious people a lot, complaining about a secular world, secular music, secular culture. While often used to denote anything hostile towards religion, what we see in this trend, and what is so dangerous, is something that is solely of this world, pointing to this current age alone. An offshoot of materialism, secularism can see nothing beyond the reality in which we live. This world that we live in, this temporality, is all that exists. There is no heaven or hell, no alternate realms, nothing to hope for beyond this life. It is why the secularist is often so invested in politics and is constantly fighting off despair. If this is the only world, we must do everything to make this world perfect, everything to save ourselves. Unfortunately, this is a problem that has begun to slip even into Christianity. In certain forms of liberation theology on the left and Christian nationalism on the right, faithful people lose sight of heaven and invest themselves entirely in fixing this world. Politics becomes their religion, for what else is there? Of course, there is so much more than this world. What we experience in this life is but a foretaste of the life to come. While God's presence is certainly found in this world, and we must do what we can to be good stewards of His gifts, there is something that will inevitably unsettle us about the world, something that should make us feel like it is not our true home. No matter how hard we work, it will never be what we truly desire. This, right here, is where we must lead people. We must draw out people's dissatisfaction with the world, their deep desire for something more. Remind them of the futility of their work, that we will eventually die, and that this world will fade away with no memory of us. Deep down, we know that this is wrong. Deep down, there is a longing in each one of us for eternity. Number 4, relativism. You do you. Whatever makes you happy. Well, that's just my truth. Mantras of a generation. Mantras of a world defined by relativism. Truth that is purely subjective. The opposite of rationalism, relativism posits that all truth is defined not by facts or logic, but by the feelings and experiences of each individual. Something may be true for one person, but not for another. For years, Pope Benedict XVI warned against the dangers of relativism, but even he could not have predicted how quickly it would pull at the very fabric of our society. In so much of our world today, facts have no worth. Logic is irrelevant. There appears to be nothing that we can agree on and no way to come to consensus. But surely no one can actually believe in relativism. There is a world with definitive forces and laws, with measurable experiences and matter, things that are one thing and not another. Ignorance may lead us to different conclusions, but there are right and wrong answers, things that are the way they are regardless of perspective. And if this is true, if there is only one thing that is objective, how did it come to be that way? Why is there something rather than nothing, and why is it intelligible at all? The person of faith, quite obviously, will point to God, objective being itself. There is something that created all that is and knows all that is. We may have our own individual perspectives and experiences of the created reality, but there is but one objective created reality because there is but one objective creator being. And finally, number 5, nihilism. If there is one thing spreading through Gen Z like wildfire, it's this. Hopelessness, apathy, distrust. We're worse off than the generation before us, and it's only going to get worse. There's nothing we can do. The nihilist gives in to the idea that there is no point to anything and that resistance is futile. Why try? And in one sense, you can probably see why. They grew up after 9/11. They've seen 2 economic crashes and a global pandemic. Their formative years have been during the most divisive time in American history. They were basically raised on Vine and TikTok and have been using it as a coping mechanism to deal with the bleakness of our world. But cope, they have not. Because we all know that social media can be as much an echo chamber as anything else, perpetuating what we want to hear and shielding us from alternative narratives. Like the fact that we are technically in the most peaceful time in human history. Children have never been safer from disease. Poverty is at an all-time low, literacy an all-time high. In so many ways, the world is filled with goodness and progress. As Christians, it can be easy to look at this world with frustration, but we can never give in to despair. This place may not be heaven, but Jesus himself says that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Everywhere we look, the presence of God is readily available for those who wish to see. Our lives may not make the difference we want them to make, but they do make a difference, and there is a purpose to our lives, even in the absurd parts. If we want to break people out of this nihilistic thinking, we must point them to the cross, the sign that God loves us so much that he would enter this world to die for us, to save us from darkness, to save us from sin, to save us from meaninglessness. It is from this heroic act of self-sacrifice that death itself is conquered, and we are shown that even the most despairing of lives can be redeemed. There is a reason for everything and hope for the future. Of course, sometimes the deepest threats to our faith are not from outsiders, but are actually in the room with us. We may have a handle on these 5 philosophies of our day, but what are we doing about the problems within our churches? If you're interested in a video that holds up a mirror to Christianity and calls us to conversion, check out this video next.